Here is example 1 found on your offline activity application using rational equations. This particular example is an example of a simple proportion seen in your level of math. Right here we have a 170-pound person weighing 65 pounds on Mars. How much does a 12,750-pound satellite weigh? You have to have a few assumptions in there. First of all, the fact that the satellite, when it names it as a 12,750-pound satellite, they are talking about when it's on Earth. And they're asking about what does it weigh on Mars. So when you have something that has two units compared, you know you have a proportion. The first thing I like to do is write down what are the two units that we're comparing, because I know that I'm going to make two equal ratios out of those units. So we have the Earth pounds, is the best way I can think of it. You make up your own. There's no right or wrong there, just to make sure you remember. And then on the bottom, you have the Mars pounds. Next to it, we're going to put a proportion setup, which is one ratio equal to another ratio, making sure you have the equal sign in there. In the first sentence, or in the first part of the sentence, we have a 70-pound person. That would be the 170-pound person on Earth, is a 65-pound person on Mars. Next we have the satellite, which is 12,750, also on Earth. And the question is, how much does it weigh, which would be on Mars. So we put our unknown down there with Mars, making sure this is Earth, Earth, Mars, Mars. The next thing is to decide how we're going to solve this. We could use the method we just covered in rational equations and multiply both sides by the common denominator. That method is shown in your example. What we're going to do is the more common example of just solving the proportion. This technique is used when you have two fractions. You can see here you have one fraction equal to one fraction. You can't really do this method when you have two fractions on one side and one fraction on the other, because we have a property that says the cross products of a proportion are equal to each other. So that means that if I multiply the 170 times x, it has to be equal to 65 times 12,750 for that proportion to be true. Simplifying gives us 858,750 on the right side. And don't forget, you can use your calculators on these. It's just fine. You'll have a calculator on your test. Now we decide, okay, we need to divide by 170, so the x will be isolated completely, and we come up with 4,875. This is the solution for x. The question didn't ask for x, it asked how much the satellite weighs on Mars. So we need to take our answer and interpret it for the person who asked the question. Basically, the satellite weighs 4,875 pounds on Mars. Make sure they understand that your answer is addressing their question. Now let's move on to example number 2.